Hi, welcome to the Squeaky Wheel Farm. I'm Christine, and today I'd like to talk with you about why we chose to make this style of chicken tractor. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention, and it's really very important, we were using a lot of scrap lumber and scrap materials that we already had. I originally had been thinking about building one of the Joel Salatin style chicken tractors. It just looked like a really simple design that would be easy to make and easy to transport around because they're nice and light. But when I decided that I was going to put this in the pasture with the goats, I knew that a flat top would not work because the goats are going to climb on it. So one of the requirements that I put on this chicken tractor for my husband was that it had to be a steep enough slope on the roof that the goats wouldn't be able to get on it. And this has worked really well. Joel Salatin usually has the flat top, and it's usually only like 2 feet tall. We're raising Cornish cross, and those are not very hardy birds. You do lose some even if you do everything right. But I knew that if I had to get in there and get out a sick bird, or maybe one that it's already passed, I knew that it'd be really difficult to get that out of there, and I just couldn't see myself crawling under there through the chicken poop to try and get out a dead bird. Now, you might look at this structure and think that it looks very similar to the John Suscovich style, which looks very similar to this, but it has a full door on the front, so it extends beyond the roof. I didn't want the door to be sticking out. I felt that it was a structural imperfection, and we wanted this structure to last at least for a couple of summers so that we can get our use out of it, because it does take some effort to put one of these together. My husband works hard, and I didn't want him to have to do this all over again next summer. So it's another reason why we chose to build this style, but to modify it somewhat. Now, another problem with the John Suscovich style building is that they use a tarp for the cover. And again, I didn't want that because I wanted a contained solid structure that predators couldn't get into. Now, I should explain some of the reasons why we're putting this chicken tractor inside our goat pasture. One, the area that I had planned on putting it, which is near our chicken coop, has a pretty steep slope, and I knew it would be just fine going downhill, but it would be a problem pushing that tractor back up the hill. So we decided to put this inside the pasture with our goats, and they have helped to protect our chickens from the raccoons and predators that we have so prevalent on our farm. Now, this tractor is 8 feet by 12 feet, and I believe it's right about 6 foot tall at the highest peak. So my husband's 6'2". He can get in it when he bends over, but I'm pretty sure that I could stand up inside it if I needed to without having to bend over, and that is a huge benefit for me. Another thing that I like about this style of chicken tractor is I can see the birds when we're moving them, to make sure that we don't run over any. And another thing is there's so much more air movement through this style of chicken tractor. Now, if you've ever raised any chickens, you know that air movement is the secret to keeping them cool. As the temperature rises, it causes a lot of stress on the birds, and if there's air movement, they can tolerate it a whole lot better. Another thing I like about this style of chicken tractor is that it's going to be multi-purpose. Now, when I'm done with raising these meat birds, and they generally take 8 weeks beginning to end, so they don't come out here until they're at least 2 or 3 weeks old. But I'll have a second opportunity to use this building because I plan on hatching out some layer birds. And I'll use this chicken tractor and keep them in there for the first couple of months so they'll have a nice, big, healthy environment to live and grow while we're waiting for them to get big enough to add to our current flock. Now, I've already mentioned that one of the benefits is this peak on this chicken tractor, and that it's so high that I can stand up in it, and that obviously the goats aren't climbing on it, which is a big deal for me. I didn't want the goats traumatizing my birds and causing them extra stress by being on top of the chicken tractor. And I should mention that so far this chicken tractor has been predator proof. Now, we did build this out of chicken wire, which was not my first choice. Normally, anything that I build, I would want to use hardware cloth. However, I mentioned that we're using all scrap and materials that we already have on hand. And we just happened to have a brand new roll of chicken wire that a friend had given us that they were not going to use. So it was kind of silly to not use that since we already had it and it didn't cost us anything. Now, if you've had chickens before, you know just opening up the door, a lot of times you can have the chickens come rushing out and then you've got to run around trying to catch them. So one of the things that I really like about this chicken coop is that it has a sill on it. This is 18 inches tall. I don't have the chickens rushing out at me, and it's not very hard to just step right over to get into the chicken coop. So it's not a hardship for me because it's not very tall. It's only knee high. And the chickens can't get out. So that's a big plus. And I should mention, if you don't already know, these chickens poop a lot. They're on a clean environment every day. Clean grass, and they have the opportunity to look for bugs and worms and other things that they wouldn't have had if I'd have kept them in a traditional coop that stays in place all the time. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that the birds are still able to get sunshine from either end and from down below, but that we've got a full roof over this because the sun gets so hot here. I did want to mention that this is not a how to build. You're going to have your own ideas of what's going to work for you, and that's how it should be. You should be able to think through the problems that you're going to have and try to figure out how to overcome them. And by raising meat birds, you really don't make a lot of money. In fact, we don't plan on making any money because these birds are for our own consumption. So while it's not going to be a whole lot cheaper than purchasing them at the store, I know they're going to be a healthier product that I can feed my family. Another thing is, since you aren't making any money at these birds, you can't really afford to spend a whole lot of money in building a contraption like this. So it's really handy if you've got some extra supplies laying around. Use what you've got. That's what we've done, and it's worked for us so far.
All these are just took 2 corner pieces of metal from the barn, bent the ends in and screwed them into just 2 pieces of wood, and then just put this carrying bar across, and it works really good. So didn't cost me anything. This is all scraps.
Now there are a couple of negative problems with this size of a chicken tractor. For one, it's very heavy, and we have to use a piece of equipment to move it around. So by pushing it a little each day with the Bobcat, he's able to watch the birds to make sure he doesn't run any over. He's able to do it slowly and carefully, and it's not a big deal. I mean, he gets the Bobcat out every day for one task or another, so being able to use it for this is just another plus of having farm equipment. That being said, if you don't have a Bobcat, and we haven't until just the last few years, you've just got to find a way to use what you have. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Oh, and one more thing. I hope to see you again soon. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, watch this next. Oh, but if you'd like to be able to choose a video for yourself, just hit the Squeaky Wheel Farm logo and hit the subscribe button. It'll take you right back to my channel and you'll always be able to find us. Now, there's plenty of videos for you to enjoy. Thanks for watching.